into the fact that there's no Matthews, there were no Chris Tanev today, and that's a huge
And an
hole.
outstanding. It wasn't Jake Ottinger in goal on the other side.
And it's those are big holes, right?
Yeah.
That you're not filling today. But just to go back to my point is that if you are off 3, 5, 7% of that energy, of that focus, then dump and chase doesn't work. You're going to be a split second too late, and your opposition gets a much better opportunity and a cleaner opportunity to get out of their own zone. And I think that's where I watch the Leafs now, is the things that were probably easier for them 10, 12 games ago became like driving through mud today. And they don't win a lot of pucks that they put in deep anymore. And they look tired to me. They look like they could use a break. And I don't know. We're going to get to Craig Berube. I think we got some sound from him right now. We'll get to him. But that's what I see. I see a very tired group right now, mentally, physically. Who knows where they are, even emotionally.
I thought looking at the game on Saturday against the Islanders, I thought they looked dead tired. You know, on the second half of the back-to-back, you know, usually you build into a game after the first period, you start feeling yourself, and I didn't think they had anything there. Like, I don't know, up until maybe the start of December, remember how we used to talk about how there's no odd man rushes? How it just felt like the odd man rushes had completely dried up, and it really feels like they're starting to creep back in now. The goal totals are going up, and it's a lot of hockey they've played in this last little bit, so it's definitely a factor.
And it's taking its toll on a few guys. The guy that pops at the top of my head right now watching this lineup and going, there's someone that could really use a break. For me, Matthew Knies. I don't see much purpose in his game right now. I see a guy that wants to play how his coach wants him to play. There might be a fine line there where he's just dumping the puck in too much. But when he does, he's not winning battles. He's not coming up with pucks. I think he's got maybe 2 points his last 10 or 12 games, which, again, is okay for a guy with a little over 100 career games. But unfortunately for the Toronto Maple Leafs, where you have to be the number one left winger on a team that's supposed to contend for the Stanley Cup, that ain't good enough right now.
So the tired thing is interesting because generally when that's said, it means you're losing. When they talk about being tired, right? When you're winning, what does it matter? And then Saturday, the New York Islanders were waiting for you. You're played in Buffalo, okay?
Yeah.
It's a bus ride. And Buffalo still are the Sabres, okay? So you made it a little bit interesting when it shouldn't have been so interesting at the end. So I thought that was kind of like, and to his point, being tired was, well, wait a sec, we gave up like too many 2-on-1s or whatever in the first 5 minutes. So what is that, mentally tired? Not focusing to like beyond the actual physically being tired. So that's why whatever number day break they have, you know, okay, maybe positive, maybe it's the mental adjustment that they need. But I think Knies, I think that's a good point. Hey, when can we talk about the Nylander shift? Like what you thought of
for sure. Let's
later. Okay,
but we're going to get into all that.
Okay.
We still got plenty of time
because I just
here.
want to talk about being tired. I was just kind of
talk about Nylander. We're going to talk about Matthews. There's still plenty more to chew on. But let's get a feel from Craig Berube post game after today's 5-2 loss, and we'll pick it up from there.
Some of those little details you talked about before the game that were, you know.
Yeah, I thought third period, 2 of them.
What were some of the keys that you want to see from your team limiting the opponent's transition chances?
What's that?
What are some of the things you want to see from your team in trying to limit the opponent's chances in transition?
I don't
So
know.
throughout this week, I mean, you spoke about you want to see the team improve the rush defense. Like, what would you like to want to see from your team as regards to the details?
Yeah, I mean, I get the one, Mitch is shooting a puck, it got blocked, and, you know, we're back checking on that play. You know, they played it pretty well. I mean, I think, you know, I'd like to see Woolsey over there in that one. The one in the third, it's just a neutral zone thing, transition by them, and we, you know, our forward sleeping on the weak side. It's just, they make a backdoor play. You know, fourth goal, bad, we got to have stick details there. Like, it's just details.
Any more details on Tanev and his status?
Lower body right now.
Something happened in the last game there?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about the team overall up to this point?
Well, I think the team overall has played some real good hockey and done a lot of good things. Made a lot of strides in the right direction, and we will again. These last 2 games, we've slipped. I thought that we played a real good first period. We got a penalty and they scored in the power play, but I thought we were the better team. And then even in the second, I liked our game, but we got to clean up the mistakes, the details. And, it's like the game's right there. We created enough. We didn't score enough goals, obviously, tonight. But, we did a lot of good things tonight. I thought that we checked well tonight. But we got to clean up some stuff, like these details, we got to clean them up.
Overall, you say that it's true the defense has been much better here in Toronto. But how do you bring an offense up now to that balance, do you think, to a little more once you get
Well, I think the offense has been coming. I think we've been scoring more 5-on-5 as of late. Power play got one tonight first, but we're missing that a lot. We missed that a lot tonight again too. I think it was like 23 times.
It happens sometimes for players, but what did you think of Willie out on the ice for 4:55?
On that power play?
Power play and went after.
Well, Willie knows he could stay out for the full power play, 2 minutes. At that point, I'd have to look at the tape and, think about and look at why he didn't come off or where the situation was at the time. But, he's obviously trying to score.
Did you think Woll had the puck covered in his feet there?
No.
Did you get an explanation?
Well, where I saw on the bench, I thought he did, but it was behind him. And I couldn't see on the bench from that angle. So our video guys looked at it. So otherwise, if it was, I would have called the challenge.
The details thing, is that just a function of a long season and using these next 3 days?
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. You get worn down, tired, a lot of hockey, a lot of back-to-backs we've had. It's been a tough schedule for us. I'm not making excuses. We're in the NHL. You got to, doesn't matter. You got to be sharp. But these 3 days, get some rest, and we should be ready to go. Thanks.
Thank you.
As head coach Craig Berube after this afternoon's loss. So just one more point I want to make about what I see in terms. I'm not making excuses. There's things that I still don't like, including the length of Willie's shift. But it's just not the Leafs. There's signs that I saw out of Winnipeg that they're a little spent too. And just it seems like every team's playing every other night. And we have this compressed schedule to get to this 4 nations. And I think in general, they've affected the product on the ice for people to go pay and think that they're going to see top performances and top, entertainment. They can't do it. They just cannot do it. It's just too much compressed in a very short period of time. And I think the Leafs have paid for it, and there's other teams that have paid for it. And unfortunately, there's just no way around it.
So it's and one big difference, like first of all, from my era, everything, even if it's not a good game, it's full speed nowadays. Like it's full speed. Everything's done basically full speed. So as far as the, extracting a toll in that regard. And the other thing, Kippy and Sammy, I never played, but I was fortunate to work for organizations, and you get tired. The season just keeps coming at you. And there are these dog days, and, and generally when the weather turns and whatever, so the better teams kind of ride it more even. It's not as uneven, right? They don't have they don't have as many valleys. They have more peaks. And you're right. It just seems right around now it's catching up to not just the Toronto Maple Leafs, but a lot of other teams that it's just a lot.
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliotte Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Austin Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kaje Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. This isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Myrtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Myrtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederick, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure: it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes, or doesn't make, will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gourde's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoffman, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minton could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.